I'm pretty sure we're live. Hello, I'm Danny Cobbin, Stephanie Pesterfield here. We will be talking co-parenting today.
Yes.
I don't really have a name for this other than co-parenting.
It is what it is.
So you could tell me a little bit about you, and then I'll tell y'all all about me because I know y'all are more curious who I am than who she is. So
don't say that. No. All right, so a lot of you guys obviously know me as Stephanie. I'm with our landing crew. We have a family channel on YouTube primarily. We are a large family of 8. We have 6 kids. 15, 14, 12, 4, 2, and 1. Usually we talk a lot about special needs, but obviously our oldest, Danielle, this is actually her father. So we are going to just kind of talk about co-parenting and kind of how the last almost 16 years have been and kind of our journey and all of that great stuff. So
yes. So a little bit about me. I just graduated Super Coach Academy. So I am a certified transformational coach. Among other things. But what I found interesting about what we have going here is that what's really important here is that like we almost have a 16-year-old daughter, and we did not day one think that this would be where we would be right now.
No.
So a little bit about the journey, Stephanie.
Well, we briefly dated when I was 17. I was like still in high school, and I ended up getting pregnant with Danielle, and I didn't know I was pregnant with Danielle, and through course of information, I just decided to break up with Danny before I even knew I was pregnant, guys. Like I didn't know. And then I started dating my now husband, Lonnie. And I'm pretty sure during that time is when Danny started dating his wife now, right? Mm-hmm. So but it's kind of ironic because we both kind of started dating our now spouses basically at the same time. We didn't even know Danielle was a thing. Like I didn't know I was pregnant. And then, I found out shortly later. and so at that point, I was pregnant, and I ended up getting married to my now husband, Lonnie, when I was like 2.5 months pregnant. We hardly knew each other. My decision-making skills back then was not good, guys. Okay. Like it just wasn't, but we ended up getting married. And then when Danielle was a couple months old is kind of when Danny entered the picture. And that's kind of how it started. I mean, at least for me, from my perspective.
Yeah. Oh, well, like I'm just going to go ahead and start being candid now so that all the things that happen moving forward, y'all can't be like, oh, you didn't tell us that. I honestly was not in the right frame of mind whenever I was 18, 19 years old. And there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about later on in subsequent episodes about like what that was and like how long it took me to get over that kind of thing. But she's right. Like we met, like we did things. I mean, what do you do at 17, 18 years old? I mean, and so like, yeah, it happened. And we started dating, like you said, we started dating our individual bonus parents is what I guess we're supposed to call them. Yeah, I don't really know.
That's what I call Courtney is a bonus mom, because I mean, she's been there. Both Lonnie and Courtney have been there from day one.
And I mean, like she's been a better parent in a lot of regards than I have to Danielle. And I hate saying that, but like, honestly, through the 20s, I was not the man I needed to be, right? Which kind of sort of leads into how we are where we are today, right? I had to do a little growing, and it just so happened to coincide with Stephanie doing a little bit of growing. Yeah. But Stephanie always was interested in me seeing Danielle. The only thing was we were really spread apart. And yeah. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I got my things going, whatever. But
it's hard to co-parent across the country. It just is. It takes effort from both sides.
Yes. And the moment I started putting the effort in, that effort was met. That effort was met. And so that's how we got here, right? Like we messed up. One day, like some things happened. We saw clear what is important, Danielle.
Yeah.
And so like here we are today, like able to sit down with you guys and just like discuss what it's like, not only the bad times, but some of those good times.
Because I do feel like because I've actually posted a video on my channel that kind of told more of the backstory. So if you're wanting more of like the tea, then go there. But it's, I feel like a lot of people assumed that because I did leave out a lot of the in-between stuff that I just didn't feel was important to our story. But I mean, I guess it is important in the aspect of co-parenting, because a lot of people assume that we always had such a great co-parenting relationship. We never argued. We always saw eye to eye. And it was not always like that, because you have to understand that when Danielle was born, I was 18. I think Danny was like 19, 20. Yeah. So we were both just young. I mean, we both, like everyone, we both were going through our own things and growing. And I mean, being parents before the age of 25 is hard, guys. It's just hard. And so we didn't always make the right choice. I didn't always make the right choice. Sometimes I was selfish. Sometimes Danny was selfish, and that's just kind of how it was. So I feel like our experiences with Danielle can definitely possibly help others out there that might be going through the same thing, or maybe they're about to be single parents and having to navigate this really, really scary world of co-parenting.
Yes. It's crazy when I look back on the situation, and I wouldn't have dreamed that today I would be sitting in front of you having a discussion about like, what is it like bringing up a small, or she's not small anymore, but a young lady in today's society? And not only from the aspect of being so far apart from each other, but also from the aspect of, I mean, you have red hair, you're pretty pasty, let's just be honest.
I am white, guys.
Yes. And then, I mean, I'm not the darkest guy, but I am pretty dark. Let's just be honest. I have like 4 lights and it's not enough right now. So like, I know, and I remember Stephanie talking about some of the struggles she had walking in the stores with Danielle. And I didn't know if you want to touch on a little bit of that, or.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've talked about it, and I mean, I tell Danielle these stories, and she laughs, kind of like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did that." But I mean, there were times like literally, oh my goodness, so we would. Now you have to understand that our family was myself, who was white as ever, my husband Lonnie, who was white as ever, and then we had this child that, like, some biracial children kind of look biracial, like they have much like lighter skin tone, they have like nice hair that lays flat, and that was not Danielle. Like Danielle's pretty dark, and so people would come up to us, and now this was when we lived in Texas, but people would come up to us and constantly ask if she was adopted. And that question by itself isn't offensive. White people adopt children of all races. But then they would ask, like, then once we would say no, I'm like, she's biologically mine. Then they would tell Lonnie what a great person he was for taking us in.
I didn't even know.
No, I because I mean, it's not. It's a hard conversation to have. Like, it's things I remember when Danielle was like 1, people would tell me that Lonnie wasn't going to be able to be a dad to a child that's biracial. Like, it was like that he would, like, evidently it was a guy who had done the same thing. And he said he just couldn't deal with the comments from other people. Wow. So there are definitely, I mean, we've had some crazy things said to us. Assumptions of how I got pregnant assumptions about you. Like, I mean, it's something that I still, even now, like I still deal with. And that's why I honestly made the video, was because I was tired of these just honestly ignorant comments, like just these things. I was just like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I love what you're saying there. And what I mean by I love what you're saying is you went through a lot of stuff when you lived in Texas. And then to move to Florida, and almost, I don't want to say it was a switch, but like, I mean, you had a few more kids by then. Well, not as soon as you moved to Florida, but then you had, you had a couple more kids. And then
You.
and it almost, not that you didn't hear the same comments, but I just know that as Danielle was growing, I didn't hear as much of, and I don't know if that's just because of where you were in the country.
No, it was once we moved to, I guess it's more acceptable in Florida where we lived. I don't know how the town in Texas is now, but where we lived at the time, this was 16 years ago, it was not accepted very well. And it's harder now in Florida. We did have our own sets of issues, but it really wasn't as much blatant, I feel like, racism. I mean, like, how else are you really going to say something like that and not be called that? But in Florida, it was more like Danielle would go to school with Lonnie Jr. and they wouldn't believe that they were actually siblings, and they would call them liars. And like, it was just really weird and awkward and hard to like try to explain to young kids, like, that people aren't always going to understand.
Yeah. This is FYI. We plan to dig into a lot of these things in the upcoming months and weeks. Yeah. And we realize that although our situation isn't perfect, it's beautiful in the way that it is. And what I mean is, like, I would love to say I know Lonnie like the back of my hand, but I do not know Lonnie like the back of my hand. And I'm sure you would like to say I know Courtney like the back of your hand, but we don't know. And we don't know each other that well, other than the communication we've had about our daughter over the last 6 years.
Yeah, and I tell people a lot that it's like, I literally, like, I forget that once upon a time we were like together. Like, I do, it feels like I just have a kid with a friend. Like, it just, like, it's like we respect each other. Now, that isn't to say we haven't had issues along the way, but now, almost 16 years later, that's how I feel about it. And I think it is a beautiful thing. So I definitely agree with that.
It really is. So, like, I wanted to jump on today and just talk to you a little bit about co-parenting, but especially because right now there's a lot going on with race in America. And a lot of people are not wanting to talk about, or maybe they are wanting to talk about these things from different perspectives, but we have a really unique perspective. You are raising a 16-year-old girl that looks like an African-American, her hair, in today's society. Are there any things that you have to do differently? Or, I mean, because you have 5 other kids.
I do not have 8 kids, Danny. I do not. Shush.
Oh, man. I think we probably have a football team between us. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I have 6 kids. So not 8, guys, not 8. There's no like surprise announcement coming, I promise. So yes. So I do. Sorry, he is doing something. Oh no, someone upstairs is showering. I'm right by the water heater. Can you please call Lonnie Jr. and tell him to turn on? Oh, okay. All right.
I'll tell Danielle hello.
Yeah. Yeah. She's still recovering from her wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So she's been just like camping out in my room. So, so yes, I do have 6 kids.
Not 8.
Not 8.
Oh, but yes. So the difference between like some of the things you talked to Danielle about in comparison to maybe Lonnie Jr. because he's a little bit like a year younger. Or a little
He's
bit
a year younger, but he looks older than her because he's
He
like
does.
62 now. Like
I saw a picture of him and I was like, whoa, he looks like an adult.
Yeah, he really, really does. Like he just finished 8th grade. And so of course everyone there thought he had like failed some grades or that he was lying about his age. And he's like, no, I'm really only 14. So yes. So I mean, I feel like obviously there's a lot of difference with like, I mean, just on like the basic level, obviously with having a child that her hair is different. So that's kind of just a basic level of things that like I'd never even thought of like before until she came out with pigtails. And then I was like, what am I supposed to do with this hair? I can hardly fix my own hair. Like, how are we supposed to do this? And that's definitely been a journey in itself. And I feel like it continues to be, but, I also feel like there are conversations that I have to have with her that, hey, not everyone's going to accept you. Some people will discriminate against you just because the fact that you are not white. And that's such a hard conversation to have, but it's such an important one to have because I never wanted her to be blindsided by that. Like,
yeah.
I mean, there are times I've worried, I've wondered, I was like, are her friends going to treat her differently because she's not white? I mean, like it's hard because whether people want to admit it or not, like racism still exists. Like whether it's something we do intentionally or it's something that's just kind of ingrained with us. I mean, it exists, and I have to also have conversations with her of how to react with police officers. Like I don't have to have that conversation with Lonnie because he looks like the all-American white boy. Yes. I mean,
my I don't know if you know this or not, but my mom is like huge on every time I like, you need to talk to Danielle. You need to talk to Danielle. You need to make sure she understands. So whenever she comes down, my mom is like, let me teach you as much stuff about us as possible.
Well, and I think that's important. And that was one of the reasons that I really wanted you to be back in her life, because I was like, these are things I can talk to her. I can talk to her about from like what I see or what I think is going to happen, or from my other Black friends that tell me stories and things like that. But I don't know what that's like. I mean, I have some great, like looking back, I thought it was just like police officers being nice. But looking back, I'm like, I should have been arrested. Like I shouldn't, like, and I mean, I got off scot-free.
No,
I walked away, just a warning. Like, and those were things I was like, oh, he was so nice. Like, I was just, there are still some things that I'm like, man, Stephanie, you were so ignorant. And so it's
we all are.
Yeah. I think that that's kind of just a normal thing. So
that's what I love about having these kind of conversations, is that not only are you and I getting to discuss some of these topics, because like as we talk, there's a lot of this stuff that I'm sure she's going to go back and talk to Danielle about. Like, hey, like me and your dad said, da da da.
Yeah,
you should probably know this. Yeah. But also, I think it's so helpful for other people as well to hear the conversation, so that maybe they're having that conversation as well. Maybe not just with their like, what do you even call the other parent? Like, what is that? What would I call you other than my baby's mother? If we were going to get official about it.
Yes, I call you Dan. I don't call you baby daddy when I talk about you, but I just say Danielle's father. Like,
okay, so Danielle's mom. Like it's helpful that we're having this discussion, because so many people out there are wanting to have a discussion like this, but they don't even know where to start. Because if you don't know it's happening, or you can't see it, you don't know about it.
Yeah. And it's just as important. I want to say this. It's just as important for parents of Black or biracial children to be having this conversation as it is for parents of white children to be having this conversation as well. Because it starts at home. believe me. And if you don't know a little bit of my story, my dad, he claims he's not racist, but so from a young age, I was taught that Black and white people didn't date. And so it's completely our responsibility as parents to make sure that, again, our biracial or Black children are informed and know of these things. But it's so important for our white kids to know as well. I've had to have 2 separate conversations. Like, this is not okay. We should not be making jokes about this. Like, there's so many things that I think we just assume our kids know. And that's not always the case. And I don't want them to learn it from Google or school, because those are not 2 reliable sources. Okay.
Not at all. I remember talking to Danielle, like when I started my coaching school, just kind of sort of like, at first I was going to be like, hey, Danielle, you want to have a coaching session? But I was like, how about I just talk to my daughter? So I called her and she's like, what's up? And I was like, well, I just want to ask you a few questions. And I was like, so what do you think about, race? Basically, she's like, I don't really think about it. So what do you mean? Like basically that was the conversation about it, right?
Sounds like her. So I believe you 100%. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, whatever.
Yes. Like, who cares? I mean, I'm just living my life. Get off my back. And that's what I love about her. But what's cool is the fact that because we're coming from that standpoint, me, like, I get to talk. Let me say this a different way. Stephanie's Danielle's best friend. So I don't get to talk to her like a friend more so than her mom, but I do get to talk to her like a friend. And that is because Stephanie kind of sort of built that into her relationship with my daughter. And so there's so many things that my hands were off of, that I just had to have faith that like things are going to work out. You know what I'm saying? So like, if you were a dad in here and you're like, man, like I would really like to see my kid, like bring it up. Don't bring it up in that fashion of, because whenever I did that, Stephanie's like, why would I want to talk to you? I mean, there's no reason for that.
Yeah, I will tell you that it would, like, I could tell a difference, like when you started seeing her again when she was like 8 or 9, and like when you would talk to me, even if it was about something that was bothering you or that you didn't agree with, or you wanted to kind of open up that conversation, how you approached it with me was way different. And so because of that, it made me more receptive, and I wanted to do the same thing with you. It's about having that level of respect, and sometimes our emotions get really, really high, especially with our kids, especially as moms. Like we just go in mom bear mode and just want to go after it. But I feel like if you approach these things with care and love, then it goes a lot longer way.
Yeah, like when we lead with love and understanding. Period. And I don't mean I have to love you, you have to love me. But when we know that that's our like core of our being is love and understanding, we know that when our thinking about whatever the situation is settles, we'll know what to do and it'll be obvious to us. And that's what I loved. It was like when it was obvious to both of us that what was best for Danielle was for me to be in that picture, because you had that in mind for a long time. And I'm sure Danielle was like, where's my dad at? I mean, but and for me, I was just like, let's be honest, ladies. Us men, we got to get our stuff together. Let's be honest. But at the same time, Stephanie never like condemned me for that. She never that I know of, and Danielle's never said anything like this, talked bad about me in any way. And I know that I was the reason why I didn't see my daughter. And so
I would defend him, but just because at the end of the day, I still cared about you. And I always told people, like, I don't agree with the choices that you were making at the time. Like, I never like enabled that or said it was okay in any form, any fashion. But I was like, he has potential to be a great father, because when you did have her, you were absolutely amazing. And I saw a great dad. And so that is what kind of like, I was just like, he's not ready to be a dad. And that's exactly what I would tell Danielle when she asked me, that sometimes parents, when they become a mom and dad, it's not just exclusive to dad. Sometimes this happens to moms too. Yeah. They just aren't in a place to be a parent. And so in that instance, it's better to not be a parent than be a bad parent.
I would agree with that 100%. And that hit me, because that I didn't know that was what I was doing at the time. I'm choosing to step away, because now me and Danielle can have that conversation about why I wasn't there for those first 8 years, and we can have it in a completely different way, because you didn't shut that down. You didn't say, hey, this is who your dad is in this regard, because like I have a lot of potential. And something that's really cool about the conversation that me and Stephanie are having right now is I have another daughter. Like, there's a lot to unfold here for everybody. A lot to unfold for everybody, but that isn't the optimal parenting situation.
Yeah.
So like, I see both sides of it. So when you hear me say like what Stephanie's saying on our channel about, hey, I didn't necessarily condemn him. I guided my daughter in a certain way. Like, that's important. That is important, because whenever the dad is ready, or whenever whoever it is ready, let that door be as easy to go through as possible. Yeah, that's just like, these kind of things like kind of hit my head sometimes, and it's just like,
it's true though.
Like, I look back and it's just
and I mean, there was, I'm not going to let Danny take all of the blame. There were some times that he wanted to see her for holidays and such, and I couldn't get over my own feelings of, I don't want, like, she was like 7 at the time, and I just, there were some things that were my responsibility as well in that. But at the end of the day, like, it's our job to protect and love our kids. Mm-hmm. And your job isn't to protect them from your emotions with the other parent. That's not part of it. Like, they have nothing to do with whatever happened. He cheated, he left you, he used you, like, whatever it is. That there is a difference between what kind of boyfriend or husband they were and what kind of parent they are.
Yeah. And with that being said as well, like, Danielle stepped back into my life, and I had to get even better as a man. I remember, and lots to unpack. That's why when we put this course out, you should join. But I remember the first time me and Danielle went, like, we were in Florida, and we went to the beach to have dinner, and I sat so that I could see the sunset, and Danielle was sitting right in front of me, and Danielle started crying. And I was like, how are you crying with this beautiful sunset? It's the most beautiful thing ever, and you're crying. And I had to grow from that. Me. Like, my daughter hadn't seen me in years, and she wants my attention. And I'm like, well, but the sunset.
I'm dead. But, and I want to give this story. This is going to be a really, really sad story. And I'm only giving this story for other moms or dads, whichever you out there, of how it can, like, affect your child by not seeing them. Because I can tell you, like, I'm telling this, but the 2 years prior to Danielle and Danny reconnecting was Danny wanting her to come for holidays. She was in school, so she obviously couldn't, like, come anytime. So it had to be Christmas or it had to be summer. And I think the last time she had stayed with Danny was during summer, and it was right before her 5th birthday. And it was a long time. It was like the entire summer, and she cried a lot. And it was just, we both didn't want to, like, put her through that again. So on the way to the restaurant to meet Danny for the first time that she can really remember, she just, like, broke down and started crying and asked me, like, what if he didn't like me? Like, just like, she literally at that point, like, it was just so hard. I'm gonna start crying, but, like, it was so hard because at that point I had to be honest with my 8, almost 9-year-old that you did want to see her the last few years. And I was the reason that she didn't see you. And that was so hard. But I felt like as a parent, like I was like, I can't let her believe that you just didn't care. And that's why it's so important for you not to like badmouth the other parent.
Yeah.
Like as a mom, I'm honest with my kids about things that I've made mistakes on. Some things I don't have to be honest. They just see that I'm a mistake maker.
We all are. We're human.
I think it's important because it shows our kids that we are human and that we are designed to flaw, but it's what matters afterwards. It matters what you do after the mistake that really, really, really counts.
Yes. Wow. That sparked something for me. Like, I used to be in the orchestra. I love telling this story for some reason.
Orchestra. Can we just talk about that for a second?
No.
No.
Later. My favorite thing about being in the orchestra. We will definitely get to that. Best thing about being in the orchestra is seeing the way things are created in every aspect of life, right? So the way things are created is we set an intention. Hey, I would love to have a better relationship for our daughter. Mm-hmm. And you go in that first day and everybody's playing and it is the worst thing you've ever heard in your life. It's so bad. So bad. And you keep playing through it. You keep working through it and you keep working through it. And eventually one day things just kind of sort of come together.
Yeah.
And then you have that big dance, right? Like UIL was the thing in orchestra, but that time where me and Danielle sat down in front of the beach. And sometimes you do great. You get all fours. Other times you say, oh, we need to go back to the drawing board.
But isn't that parenting though? I mean, I can't tell you how many times like I've messed up. I mean, I have stories for days because obviously she's been with me longer, but like I have stories for days of things that I completely messed up. So
that's the thing though, is it works out perfectly. Everything works out. That's
it did. Like at first it wasn't easy. Like it wasn't like, guys, you have to understand that I had this almost 9-year-old and then suddenly I'm like, I have to share her now. And it was so hard. I remember, so he came down during the summer, I think it was like September-ish, right?
Yeah.
Like September, October-ish. Mm-hmm. So he came down for a weekend and that's kind of what started the relationship and things like that and reconnecting. And then the next holiday, he's like, hey, I want to see her for Christmas. And I agreed to it because I knew when I agreed to it, I was in the mind space of this is the best for Danielle. But as it got closer to Christmas, like guys, I wanted to back out so bad because I never had a Christmas without Danielle. Like I was like, how am I supposed to do this? And then this thought came in my head was how many Christmases has he had without Danielle? How many Christmases has Danielle not had him? And in that instant, I was like, we're doing it.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like it's hard. It was not easy to go from not having to share my daughter to suddenly having to share her was completely hard. It was a hard transition for us, for Danielle. I mean, I think we both messed up and didn't always make the best choices. And that's kind of how it does. And we do rotate holidays now. I get this question a lot. Like, how does she sees her dad during the summer? He's actually about to like,
come pick her up. Yeah.
And then we rotate. So every other Christmas, he gets her. Every other Christmas, I get her, and we rotate for Thanksgiving and things like that. So that's kind of how it works. But with time, it just got easier. And that following year is when Danny and Courtney got married. And
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It was, so you'd seen, it was almost a year to date. And I will tell you that it went so well that she came home. This is kind of sad, but sweet at the same time. She came home and cried because she wanted to spend more time with you. And at that point, that is when it just met. Like that was just, I know. And at that point was when it just all came perfectly, like perfectly. And I knew at that moment that I had made the right choice, because when you have a child that's a little bit older and you're trying to get them to reconnect with a parent, it's sometimes hard to do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Oh, that's I know that if I would have been in any different space at any point in time, that this wouldn't be what it is right now. And I didn't have the best, like, I'll be honest, we can contribute a lot of this to Courtney. Let's just be honest. Courtney's like, Danny, like,
hang on. I think Lonnie needs something.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, hang on. I'm sorry.
You're good. A little bit. I'll just talk about me a little bit, I guess, in my experience of life. Hello, all you people out there. I guess I can read comments. Let's see what we got here. Let's see here. Okay. Do we know who Willow is? Hello, Willow.
Okay. Sorry, he was just excited, guys. He got the sensory swing up in the baby's room, and they were both swinging, and our baby was holding on to our two-year-old, and it was just so cute that he just wanted to show me. So sorry about that, guys. Real life.
Hey, I got the twins, and Courtney's in there right now. Like, I think I was like, can you go outside for a little bit, please?
It's so hard. It's so hard.
So I want to wrap this up somehow. Is there anything that you want to leave them with?
I think that it's just about respecting each other as, again, I kind of talked about this on Instagram stream, but respecting each other as the position they have with your child. But it's also about loving your child more than you love yourself and how you are feeling. And a lot of people will say, oh no, I love him. And I'm not saying you don't love your kid, but when things happen, emotions are there, and it's hard to like navigate through all of that. But at the end of the day, it's not about you. No. It's about your child and what's going to be best for them. So unless your not significant other, but the other parent, unless the other parent is abusive or on drugs.
Yeah. Don't put your kids
there isn't an excuse that you could give me that would make me say, oh, okay. Like, it's completely fine to keep your child from the other, because I can tell you, yes, kids can reach out to their parent once they're 18, but it's not the same. No. Like, it's hard to build that relationship when they've missed crucial years. And if they've missed crucial years just because they didn't want to be involved, that's one thing. But if they've missed crucial years because you've made it hard, or you've made it just so complicated, it's just not fair.
Stephanie, thank you so much for sitting down for a minute and talking about this. There's lots and lots and lots of love out here for you. So many people love what you got going on. I personally am so thankful for who you are. You've helped me to see that, hey, there is a light inside of me, and if I go out there and I just do the thing every day, that, you know, I'll get better. Like, it's one of the things that I learned from you. Like, that's something that's, if I was to leave you people with anything, there's something to learn from everybody. That's even that other parent. So it may not be the best thing to learn, right? Yeah, it might be a warning. Oh, I shouldn't do that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But there's something there. Anyway, You guys have a lovely day. We will talk to y'all more about all these plans that we're coming out with as they come out.
Yes, I am vlogging on Monday, so you guys will probably see that later on the week, and I will kind of talk more about kind of what's going on and our plans behind the scenes and all of that. But I love you guys.
Thank you. Have a good day, Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.